Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and there's a lot of steps to get to before you can actually quilt a quilt. But today what I would like to share with you is a pattern that I like to use to stitch the layers together. It is a very quick stitch and it looks like it's been custom done. Another nice thing about this stitch is it's the start of many stitches that you can do. Once you learn this basic stitch well, you can do many different variations of this stitch. So the first thing that we need to do is make a sample of the fabric that you have made your quilt from. And with that sample, make sure you use the same batting and the same batting that you're going to do. And that way you can make sure you have your machine set exactly correctly before you get to your actual top. And I like to do a nice big piece because I don't want to play with a little piece. I want to give it the whole good feel. Now my quilt batting is this batting from Fairfield, and it is a fusible batting, and it fuses the layers together for me, so I've not had to do any basting, and that makes it really nice. The other thing I'm going to be using is this marathon thread. It is 100% cotton and it's color 50, and I just love how bright this fuchsia color is. Now I'm going to be stitching this today with my Bernina 790, and I am going to be using the stitch regulator, but you can use any machine and any quilting foot because this is a very basic and easy stitch. So the stitch I'm going to use today consists of what I call letter C's. And I like to have a big pad of paper to test it on just to get my memory going. I find that if you use a pen, you have a tendency to want to do your drawing very small because the brain associates the pen with writing. Where if you use a larger Sharpie, well, it sort of frees up your mind so you're able to do the pattern bigger. Now, if this is your quilt, you want to stitch it in quarters. So if you pretend that the quilt is in quarters, you're going to sew this area first. Then you're going to go to the next and go all the way around. And by doing that, you're not having to twist that quilt all over. You're just kind of working in that one area. And if you go out into that area and out into that area, that's fine. But if you just think of doing a quarter at a time, it's going to make it easier to handle. And this stitch is going to consist of letter C's. And I'm going to start anywhere in that quarter, and I'm just going to do a letter C. And I'm going to follow back on the letter C. And then from there, you're going to do another letter C and then go back on the letter C. Make a C, go back on the C. C, and then go back. Now by doing this, you are going to be able to change the direction of the C's. Don't always make the C's going into the right side or going into the left. Just change your C's up. And then you can follow one of your C's path to get to another area that you want. And again, just do a C. Now, if my quilt edge has stopped here, I don't have room for a C here. So that's where I'm going to be able to travel over and do another C. So it doesn't matter if you're doing your C's in a more round shape, or if you're doing your C's in more of an egg shape. Whatever you feel comfortable with is going to be the right stitch for you to use. So if you want a large stitch, practice it large. If you want it small, practice it small. So I'm going to, in my mind, take that quilt and put it in quarters. And I like to take my stitching in an area that you're not going to see it. So I have the bright fuchsia. I will hit one of these dots that are fuchsia, and you're not going to notice your knot as much. And even though my machine will tie a knot for me, I still like to tie the knots and pull them between the layers myself. I like to start with my needle down, and I'm going to start with my letter C's. Now, in order to do this, I put a rhythm in my mind, some kind of a song or a tune, and that keeps the same speed throughout the quilt. And by keeping the same speed, it will actually help you keep the same size, and it will keep the stitches the same length. So put a tune in your head and start. And I'm just doing a letter C, and then another C. Just continue making the C. Just change the directions of your C. If you need to fill a hole, definitely just do a small C. There is really no right and wrong. You just need to do your letter C's. And don't forget, you can travel following a previous C line. Quick and fast it is just by these C's. And if you get stuck, just follow some C's, go out, and then start a new C. And you see I made a C here, but then I had a space here, so I traveled into that space, came back out, and then continued another C. But you don't notice that I don't have a C there. You assume it's part of that C, and it fills that hole. The other thing is I'm not afraid to go outside of my batting. I try to keep as much as I can inside, but if I have to run outside in order to do a C, that's fine. And when this is trimmed up, you are not going to notice that you've cut off the C's. It's just going to look like part of the quilt. And do you see here how I crossed over the lines? Well, I'm leaving it. I'm not worrying about it. You are not going to see that little crossover over the whole quilt. So don't stress about these little things. And here's the back of the quilt. You can see all the letter C's going in the different directions. To put this in proportion for you, it's a 35.5-inch square. It would have taken approximately 3 to 4 regular bobbins. And I always recommend to spool your bobbins first. I have the Bernina. It is a lot bigger bobbin, so it only took me just under 2. So by just doing letter C's, you can get a quilt top quilted in no time. And using a nice bright thread always makes the quilting stand out, so it looks nice from both sides. Quilting is made to be fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be perfect for you. Enjoy the quilting process, and the more you enjoy it, the easier it will become. Thank you for joining me today on So Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.